Hey, 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 what's up, Crown Nation?
Welcome, everyone, to another fabulous episode of Rock the Crown. I am your host, Nafisa Fudayil, and of course, you know I couldn't do this show without my other queens, Queen Naima and Nefertari. It is so great to be here with you guys this evening. We're just excited to bring you another episode in our season 4. And today we have to ask a very provocative question. Are you ready to die? I have to ask this question because this is really going to start the framework for our show. Are you ready to die? Right? What I mean by that is, have we put our affairs in order? So today what we're going to talk about is putting our affairs in order. Whether we're talking about an estate plan, our health forms that we need to have in place, money issues, our will and will and trust. We're going to talk about all that stuff today. Stuff you've been putting off, right? Or maybe you've been one of the lucky ones to do a will, but you haven't visited it in a long time. We're going to cover what's current and just have a conversation and let you know so you can be prepared and an easy way for you to put these things together. Now, of course, I'm an attorney. My specialty is tax and trust, and I do a little bit of trust and a little bit of estates. But this is really to give you all a basic framework so you can go, and I'm going to show you where you can go to do your own will. If you want to do your own will, if you do have some complicated stuff going on,
she'll be back.
Yeah, she'll be back. But if you do have some complicated stuff going on, she will be able to describe all of that stuff to you this evening. Mm-hmm. And so we want to be able to start off again talking about healthcare directives, the power of attorney for healthcare, general power of attorney, your homegoing, pets, because we know nowadays pets are essential. And then, of course, we will be able to list those resources for you later in the show as well. So I'm not an expert, but I'm going to try to start this show off with the last will and testament. The last will and testament is basically a distribution of your property, naming guardians and appointing an executor. So I know that when we talk about the last will and testament, people don't really understand how important this is. So you never want to get in a situation where you are leaving your family fighting for that blue Cadillac, okay? Or fighting for that house that your dad or grandpa had over on El Caminito Way, right? Okay, so just making sure that all the assets, because remember, once you pass away, if you do not have those items, whatever your possessions are, in a will and testament, in some states, the state then owns that property. So no, they're not going to be nice and say to you, hey, Nefertari, guess what? We want to give you this $10,000 that's in the bank account. No, they're going to take that $10,000 out of that bank account and they're going to take it for themselves, quote unquote, the state government. Okay.
So Naima, real quick on just that part with the bank account, one of the easiest ways too, so you don't have to deal with the courts and things after someone passed away, is to, with your bank accounts, put somebody that you trust on your account where they are a part owner of the account. That way, when something happens to you, they already have immediate access to that. So that's the first thing. And the second thing you can do is there is where you can go to the bank and they put you on, you can put someone on as a beneficiary for your account. So that's another way for you not to have to deal with going through the courts and all of that. So it'll be kind of like at time of death, this person is in control of this account. So that's the second way. The first way is just actually putting someone on that account as a primary user, the same as you, but it's your account. So 2 things. So just in case.
Excelente, because of course we do have separate accounts sometimes, and you definitely want to make sure that you do have those precautions. Also, during your last will and testament for property, I know in certain situations, say for instance you own a home, you would definitely want to make sure that if at all possible, if there's a clause in your home, in your mortgage, sometimes when that person passes away, um, if that person passes away, you are able to get that property, and if the mortgage will be absolved at when that person passes away. Now, not every single mortgage does this, but definitely this is something that you really, really, really want to look into. If someone passes away, you want to make sure that there's a clause in there that the mortgage is paid off upon that person's passing. And so that's one thing to think about when it comes to property. Nafisa, we were just also talking about bank accounts and that blue Cadillac that your grandma left behind. You know,
Right.
all that stuff has to be written out. Otherwise, the state in some states will take that property over. You want to continue from there?
Right. Yeah. And the important thing to remember too, as we're going on through this whole discussion that we're going to have, and the important thing is we're trying to make sure that everybody is prepared so things can go your way. Everybody wants to do it their way. They want whatever stuff you have, whether you think you got a lot of money or a little money or a lot of precious jewels or no jewels or just sentimental things. You want them to go to the people and to be divided how you want it to go. And the only way to do that is to make sure you have your stuff in writing, or you have documented what it is your wishes is, so that you can do it your way. And as I was saying, what we want to do is we always want to start from the top. So when you want to talk about my everything, the document that does that for you is your last will and testament, right? So everybody should have a will. And I also want people to know that when I'm speaking, I live in Georgia. So this is a matter of state law. So for the most part, all 50 states kind of have similar laws, but you always want to make sure that you check your specific state law, because what I say, they may do it a little different. They may call the document a different type of name, but the main function of all these documents that I'm going to talk to you about is the same, regardless of what state you're in. So we want to make sure that we know that. So when you talk about the last will and testament, people always think, oh, if I don't have a lot of money, then what do I need a will for, right? People always think that. I don't have $1 million. I don't have such and such dollars. So what do I need a will for? You need a will so that everybody is clear about what you want to happen with your stuff. And even if you say you don't care because you dead, you don't want your family to be fighting over stuff. If anything, you want to reduce the possibility of there being turmoil. And the best way to do that is to put it in your last will and testament. And keep in mind that state law has a will for you if you don't do your own. Okay. State law has a will for you if you don't do your own. Okay. They're going to split it up exactly what Georgia law says, how you're supposed to split it up. And this can become very complicated, particularly when you're dealing with blended families. So the best thing to do is just to write it down. And I have a program that I'm going to share with you later where you can do your own will for free. Mm-hmm. As long as you have an internet connection, Wi-Fi connection, a phone, a laptop,
and you can read.
You can do your own will. Okay. And it's not even going to take a long time either. So that's something to keep in mind. And this is the will is the document that talks about who you want your property to go to. If you have young children, who you want to be the guardian of your children, who you want to be in charge of, the executor of your estate. And everybody has an estate, whether you have a lot of money or not. Everybody has an estate. So who do you want to be in charge of distributing your stuff to wherever it's supposed to go after you pass? You name that person in your last will and testament. And then you put down everything else and how you want it to be distributed. However you want it to be, you can put that down in your will. Okay. and you need to make sure you sign your will and you get it. You have to get it notarized and signed. And most states require you to have at least 2 witnesses, right? But you can do this very easy at your bank. Most banks, they will notarize it for you. You can do this a lot of times when you go to the grocery store, the customer service section at the front of the store, they offer notary services. You go in Walmart, the little customer service, they offer notary services. So a lot of places that you may frequent every day or every week, you could just take your will when you go in and get it notarized, signed, get a copy, distribute a copy to whoever you wanted to go to, and keep, put it in your little safe or firebox or safety deposit box, and you have it and you're good to go. And the only other thing I want to say about that is that when it comes to your will, as well as all these other documents, you want to make sure you revisit that on a yearly basis, because things happen in people's lives. People get divorced, people get married, people have kids, people pass away. You might name somebody that's supposed to get something and they in a terrible car accident and they pass away. Well, you need to kind of revisit your will, for that type of thing. So that's kind of it. So have you all done your wills?
I've done my will, honey. And so making sure that you and Nefertari and Diane know when it comes to my clothes, you need to make sure you come and get them within a week's time. But Mother Ortez is gonna make sure them clothes are handled, okay? And my mother also knows, because I have a lot of clothes, but we want to make sure that you all understand. Come get the clothes and the scarves and the shoes and the purses. Okay.
Right. And you know what? I try to make sure I did my will and stuff, and the way that I'm gonna share with you to do your will a little bit later. I did my will the simple way. I didn't go through no whole bunch of, even though I'm an attorney, I didn't go through no whole bunch of attorney stuff. My stuff is simple. I don't have my stuff is simple. But even I have to make sure every year, okay, Nafisa, you need to look at your will. You need to make sure it's where you put it the last time. Just read over it real quick as anything. Even I have to make sure that I make that a part of my New Year thing that I do in January. I have to make sure that I do that. So that's just something to keep in mind.
So for me, Nafisa, I got some work to do in that area. When I first did my will, it was because I was going on Hajj. Okay. And I never had one before that. So that was back in 2010. So I actually read my will this year and I go, oh, I need to tweak this a whole lot. Like in 10 years, of course, a lot changes,
Right.
And so I definitely need to revisit that. That's been on the plans. And so I know I need to definitely get that in motion.
Hey. Right. Okay, so another thing we want to make sure that we take care of when we're doing our My Way planning is what happens with our bodies. This is something we want to think about, right? So the 2 documents that I want to talk about, one is called the Advanced Healthcare Directive, and keep in mind, and the Durable Power of Attorney for Healthcare. Okay, these are 2 documents. Now, in Georgia, for the most part, they have combined these 2 documents into one. So some states have them as 2 documents. Some states have them in one document, like in Georgia, and sometimes the name is a little different. But what's the same is the purpose. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you about the purpose. And the Advanced Healthcare Directive, I like to call this the plug pulling document, right? This is the document where, let's say, for example, you in an accident or something happens to you and they have to put you on life support. This document, if you have signed this lets everyone know how you want to be treated. Okay, do you want them to keep having you on life support and do everything they can to extend your life for a certain period of time or whatever? Or do you want them to, after a certain period of time, pull the plug and let you, things happen as they may on the natural without any type of assistance? So that's why I call this the plug pulling document, right? And this is very important because I'm gonna tell y'all a little story, right? I had a girlfriend who had this lady who was very, very close. She was like her aunt, right? She was like her aunt, who they had a very close relationship, right? So what happened was, I think she had some type of accident or something happened where basically she became incapacitated, right? And they had to put her on life support. Then they talked about, her brain waves and all this other kind of stuff. And then they brought the children in and they're like, okay, well, what y'all want me to, what do y'all want to do? Because she didn't have a document, right? So one of the daughter was like, oh no, we want to keep her on life support. Somebody else was like, well, no, if she don't have any, brain waves, if the doctor's saying it's likelihood that she won't recover, we should just take her off life support and let the chips fall where they may. And then one of the friends was like, I don't know, because if they're saying it's no chance, then maybe they should just take her off of life support. Long story short, again, they just decided to wait and not take her off life support. She ended up recovering, right? And having a full recovery. But the whole point of it is that if you don't already have your wishes written out, especially in a place that somebody knows about it, right? Then you might have family members arguing over whether to pull a plug or not, and everybody kind of thinks they know what you would do. But if you write it down, then your wishes, are very clear, and you let somebody know where those important documents are. So the Advanced Healthcare Directive is that document. And one thing I do want to say is that a lot of times when you go to the doctor, even if you're just going for your regular checkup or anything like that, you know how they make you sign all these little documents when you first come in and you're waiting in the waiting room? A lot of times this document is one of those documents. But you don't really pay as much attention to it because you're filling out all this other stuff and you really just trying to hurry up so you can get your appointment, so you can go ahead and see the doctor. You're not really thinking about this. So you really want to revisit that with your actual primary physician and see, oh, did I already sign something like that? And did I really put down what my real wishes was, or did I just hurry up and sign my name because I wanted to hurry up and give it back to the nurse so I can hurry up and get seen? Does it really reflect your wishes? So I would say check with your primary care physician and the last time you went to the doctor, or if there's a hospital that you regularly visit, to see if you already had something and does it actually reflect your current wishes. And then two, you can always do another one that's more up to date, and you can get that online, and I'll give you the resources for that. But that's a very good one. And then the doable power of attorney for healthcare. This is a document where you appoint someone to make decisions on your behalf during a healthcare type of crisis where you're not able to make those decisions for yourself, right? So one document says what you want them to do, pull the plug or not pull the plug. And another document says, okay, well, this is the person, if I'm incapacitated for whatever reason, I want them to make the decisions for me. Yes.
Yeah. So Nafisa, I have a story about that. So it was a person who was actually in the hospital and they were ill. And of course, they were basically passing away because they were in hospice and they did not have that specific document in place. And the family was arguing about who was going to be this person or whatever. And unfortunately, that night, the person passed away. And so they didn't have enough time to sign the document. So now no one was in charge. Mm-hmm. And so now everything because even though this particular person knew what to do next, could not do what's next because they did not have that in place before that specific person passed. So that is something very, very, very important, and making sure that the person that you are assigned, that you are cognizant of the person. That way there's not family members arguing about who they think that person would have wanted to put in place. If they
Right.
put you in place or whoever in place when they have sound mind and body, there's no question as to what the who is in charge when that specific thing happens. So yeah.
Right. Right. And the important thing I think too, people should remember is that even if you're going to do this stuff on your own, which, like I said, at the very least, you might want to just go ahead and do it on your own until you can get to an estate attorney or whatever, if you feel like you really, need to, is that you have to have this in a safe place and you have to let somebody know. Because even if you got, you got your safe place where you keep all your documents, if nobody knows about it, nobody knows where to look. Nobody knows where to look for your stuff. And not everybody has the patience to go through other people's things. They just don't. And if you're not an organized person, or if you're too organized, sometimes people are very so organized, because I know sometimes I put stuff in special places that I consider myself putting it up for myself. And then I can't remember where I put it up at. I'm like, I know I put this thing up somewhere so it wouldn't do such and such and such, but I can't remember where I put it up for myself. So that's just something too you got to keep in mind, to make sure everybody knows where your special place is that you keep important documents. Life insurance, whether it's a safe deposit box, whether it's a special safe that you have in your house and somebody else knows the combination, or at least they know where to find the combination or whatever. Because again, if they can't get to it or they don't know about it, it's not going to serve its purpose at all. The next thing we want to move into, which I know everybody is itching to talk about, is my money. Right? So we talked about my everything. We talked about my body. Now we got to talk about my money. And I know people are like, well, I don't have a lot of money. You got some money. Most people, even if you work in a job, when you pass away, your job for the most part has some type of life insurance. Most jobs have some type of life insurance payout on it. A lot of the standard is usually like 7 times whatever, 7 times I think your monthly salary, or 7 times your yearly salary, or something like that. It's been a while since I worked in corporate America, but they offer some type of payout, even if you don't have your own individual insurance policy if you're working. Okay. And then if you have your own insurance policy, then that's something else that's a payout, right? But let's get started with my money. The first document that I want to talk about is what's called a general power of attorney. Okay. And this document is used in the event. This is something that is used while you're still alive. It's called a general power of attorney. So maybe you still alive, but maybe you get sick, you got a disability, you're just not able to handle your affairs. So this document is something that you would do to appoint a particular person to handle any type of affairs for you. Your legal, that's why it's called a general. Your legal affairs, your financial affairs, whatever. That's what is called a general power of attorney. Okay. The other thing you want to do, like I mentioned before, if you work and you got life insurance through your job and different things, different benefits you might want to have through your job, you want to check your beneficiaries, right? So if you got a 401k plan, you got an IRA, you have life insurance through your job, you got your own individual life insurance policy, you have all these other, you got different types of investments maybe that you set up somewhere. And all of these, a lot of times you have to designate a beneficiary, right? Well, you want to make sure that you check your beneficiaries on an annual basis. And then when you have major events, because think about when you get a divorce, you have to go back and change your beneficiaries. And if you don't, it's not something that's automatic. So you have to keep in mind what it is and go back and change. If somebody passes away, then you got to change your beneficiary. If somebody start not acting right, because maybe somebody just ain't acting right, you might need to change your beneficiary. So you might want to look at that every year, just in January, or you can use your birthday too. A lot of times people use their birthday as the trigger day. Okay, it's my birthday, so the day after or the week after or whatever, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm checking all my beneficiaries. Okay, yeah, I still want that person to get 50%, or I might need to change their percentages because they ain't know what they're supposed to do, or whatever the reason is. You just want to make sure that you check it. And particularly when I say especially when you have blended families like that, you get divorced or you fall out with a person, or anything can happen. Somebody integrity comes into play and you thought they was the person that was going to be your executor or your main beneficiary, all that kind of stuff. You want to check your beneficiaries in terms of that. And then another thing is you want to have a money list. This is something I just now thought about really in the last few weeks because I've been setting up different stuff, right? I said, people need to know where your money is. This is no longer the day of our mothers or grandmothers where they just had one bank account, where they went to the bank every week and you knew what bank they went to, and the people in the bank know that person and all this. We have online accounts. We might still have our main bank account, but maybe we got 2 or 3 different accounts at that bank, and we got an account at this bank, and we might have an online account and a fiduciary account, and then we got Fidelity, and then we got a Roth IRA, and all of this is online stuff because we ain't stepped in these businesses. These people don't know us. So if you pass away, I was thinking about that. I said, if I pass away, these people my family don't know where my money is. I need to make sure I got a list of all my accounts. I mean, I got a list, but I don't have it organized like that. When I set up this other account, I'm like, ooh, I got to make sure I got added my stuff to the list. So you need to have a list of all your accounts and your passwords, all that stuff, and keep it updated on a regular basis so that your money doesn't disappear into the black hole when you disappear into the black hole. Okay. All that money you worked so hard for, them assets you worked so hard for, and you forgot when you put $5,000 in this account 15 years ago, and you haven't contributed to it in 15 years, but it's still been growing, and you didn't list it nowhere. So it's just
crypto, gone. Your cryptocurrency too.
Oh yes, crypto too, because that exists on our phones for the most part, in our wallets that's on our phones. Don't nobody know. Don't nobody know. They don't have access. It's just you just got 3 million in Bitcoin and don't nobody know about it.
That part.
Nafisa, I also want to mention, when you talked about insurance earlier and beneficiaries, also checking to see who the owner is of your policy, especially if you have it through your job. Mm-hmm. That's really important because sometimes you find that the owner of the policy is the business or institution of whatever, and so that could be another issue you run into.
Right. Mm-hmm. And usually those are called what they call key man or key employee type of insurance. So you want to check that insurance, that kind of insurance as well. But yeah, so the money list, y'all want to make sure y'all have y'all money lists. And when another thing that's interesting, when I was just recently researching this topic because I wanted to make sure I still had up-to-date information, nobody listed a money list. That's not on the list. That's not on the list. And I just think it's because a lot of times you have older people that are estate planning attorneys, and they're so used to that face-to-face. My bank, people at my bank know me. My financial planner know me because I go into their office type thing. They don't really realize so much stuff happens online, and you have so many accounts online. Some people never stepped in their bank. And even if they did, nobody know them there. So we want to do that. And then with that too, with the list is our passwords. And I know I have to write all my passwords down. And I don't change mine, where I keep all my documents at. I don't update those passwords enough. I have my list of passwords that I'm always kind of like changing. Okay, I need to change this. But I don't always update the master list with my everyday current list that I'm using. You know, I probably should do that, but I just
It's 400 passwords.
right.
I'm not. I literally have over 400 passwords. I'm like, the ones you can't get in, it's just you can't get in it. That's what's gonna be. Can't get
Oh
into
my God.
your account. Okay, it's all right.
It's so crazy. So yeah, but you got to keep a list of passwords. And because I don't remember all these daggone passwords. So again, you got to have a main place that you keep your stuff and you keep it updated. Because again, if people know where your account is, that's good. They got the money list. So they know you got an account at Bank of America, or they know you got an account at Black United or United Black or whatever online bank, United Bank Online. And they know the account number, but they don't got your password information. And it's just easier if they got your password information, because then they don't have to ask anyone. Versus, you know, if you don't have the password, then you got to go through the formalities of going to the bank or contacting somebody there and all this other kind of stuff. Presenting a death certificate and all this other kind of stuff. So it's just easier if you have your password. Okay, so that's about my money. I'm taking care of my money. Next thing is my homegoing ceremony or my funeral or my janaza. How you want to get up out of here? Okay. So even though, you know, we're Muslim here, so there's a specific criteria, a way that it's supposed to be done, right? And you have Christians and, you know, every religious faith have different particulars of how they go about helping people, you know, people making the transition, right? But at the end of the day, it's still you and your way. And that's between you and your creator. So you need to write down how you want to go up out of here. Because if not, people gonna have all kind of ideas. You might have a sister that like, no, I want my mom to have the most expensive casket there is. I want her to have a Cadillac, the Mercedes of caskets, the Mercedes of this. You know what I'm saying? And somebody else like, no, I don't think mom want that. She just want the regular box, and you can put some flowers on it and she good. So then it creates this whole bunch of strife because everybody's arguing about how they think the person wanted their funeral to be, right? And it's a whole bunch of emotion. And even, you know, I would say particularly us as Muslims, a lot of us are converts. You know, we converted to the religion, so we don't come from a family of, you know, generations upon generations of Muslims who even know about how Muslims are supposed to be buried, or or even know that there is a special way to be buried if you're Muslim. So if you don't have your wishes written down, then how you expect your sister or brother who live in 2 states over, who you only see, you might be close to them, but y'all just never talked about that. And so now they're grieving. They never been to the mosque and all this other kind of stuff. So how do you now? They got to go about trying to arrange something with people, and they don't even know anything about it. And the Christian faith, because their funeral arrangements and stuff like that are different. It's over a longer span of time. They're not used to the quick turnaround time that Muslims have. They're used to their stuff being planned out a week, 2 weeks, maybe even longer, depending on the circumstances of how that person passed away. So you need to have a document that talks about how you want to transition. Either you've made your final arrangements already and let people know, have a document on file or something like that. If it's at the masjid or at the mosque, you've written that stuff down, right? And let somebody know you've already taken care of maybe the burial costs of where you want to be buried. You know, some people real particular about, well, I was raised in New York, but I've been living in Georgia, but my parents are buried in a certain cemetery in New York, so I really want to be buried in New York next to my parents. But somebody else, your husband who live in Georgia, he like, we live in Georgia. I need you to be buried in Georgia. So the point is you need to write down what you want your final arrangements to be, right?
That second line.
Yes. How you want your homegoing ceremony to be, what you want it to be like. For me, for example, I mean, we don't necessarily do all this stuff in Islam, but I'm a different type of woman. Okay. So I already let my people know. I don't want nobody crying. It needs to be a party. I mean, go ahead and go to the funeral, but I need y'all to have a celebration of my life. There need to be some dancing going on. I don't want y'all talking about I'm gone. No, I want you celebrating on the dance floor because that's what I like to do with some good music, maybe some salsa dancing, some good food that that I like. That's how I want y'all celebrating me when I get up out of here. Okay?
Right.
So I already have this stuff written down. So this is what you should do for yourself on how you want it to be. If not, it's going to be left to somebody else thinking they know what it is that you wanted to do.
So Nafisa, the stuff that you have written down, who has access to that?
Well, I have a space, a box or whatever you want to call it, that I keep all my important stuff, and it's written down. And I've told them too, but I've also wrote it down and I let them know. So my mom, my mom knows where my box is. My oldest son knows where my box is, know where my important stuff is. So yeah.
Now I know with Naima, she actually has a Google Doc. And so she updates it and she sends it out. And so that's another good way of doing it too. Why don't you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have a Google document that has like what picture I want on my Janaza program. I have the entire Janaza program. This is what I want you to say. I have who I want to wash my body. I have who I want to recite Quran during the washing of the body. I have actually it's a program like when you walk into the Janaza program and ceremony, I have what I want everyone to receive when they come in and what's supposed to be done. And you all are in charge of that.
I need to get with you. My stuff not that detailed. Okay. I need to get with you.
Look, Ortez be like, I ain't doing all that stuff, right? But I have exactly what I want everybody to do when they come in and how I want it to look and all of that good stuff. And I know
even down to the list of this is who I want, like you said. But if that person's not available, then she got who's next in line.
Exactly. And who I want you to contact. I have my business associates, my closest friends, and my family. I have all of those lists on my document.
With their information, phone number, emails,
and everything.
You know what? We need to have a homegoing planning party.
Yeah.
So we just I'm always looking for an excuse to have a celebration. We need to have a homegoing planning party where we just get together and share all this stuff. Okay, let me go through my photos and pull out my picture. All the stuff you just said, because I hadn't thought about it in that detail. I just thought in terms of the larger themes. You know what I mean? But that's a good idea.
Okay.
And getting your families together. I know you talk about a party for your friends and family, whoever comes, but specifically, because that's something that's been on my mind for the past couple of months. And I wanted to create a Google Doc too with all of my siblings, my mom, everybody's information, down. And of course, we've experienced that with losing my father, where, we had some challenges in some different areas with trying to figure some things out. And so it was kind of like, okay, let's get all of this stuff down where you don't have to look for something, or like you said, figure out passwords or try to get access to certain things, And so just having that document, it doesn't have to have everything, but then, somewhere where where that's point one, and have another area where you touch here and you get more details about whatever that is, because there is the security too with, we talk about policy numbers and just account numbers, any and everything. And Nafisa, like you mentioned earlier, with all this, just the different accounts and the online stuff, and just making sure people know where your money is, a lot of stuff. But Naima had that. I always think about her thing, and I was like, that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Yes, I didn't even know that, Naima.
Yes, and you're on the document.
Yeah, I didn't even know that, but that's a great idea.
Email.
I'm telling you, we need to do a Saturday or a Friday night and just have a homegoing planning party. We pull together all that stuff, and you show us how to put it in the Google Doc and how you already got the template.
Right.
So all you gotta do is just share it with us, and we just use that same template,
Yeah.
and then upload, whatever we want, and create it, and then it'll be done. You
It's
spend one
done. Yeah.
Saturday
It's done.
afternoon or a Friday evening and get it done, and then it's done. And then you don't got to worry about it. You just do little tweaks here and there. Take
Right.
a look at it every year, update it or whatever. It might be a new song to come out. You like, oh no, I want to
Okay,
change my
that part,
song.
right. And make sure also something else that's very, very important is make sure you have your janaza kit. So if you don't have a janaza kit, you can create one for yourself. I'm more than willing to tell people how to create the kit, but you have to have specific things in that kit just in case the masjid doesn't have one. But you always want to make sure you have your stuff on lock. Like, don't rely on the masjid to do all the stuff that you as a Muslim are supposed to be doing anyway. So definitely have your janaza kit ready. And it's just putting everything in a huge, big old plastic bag, having your sheets in there, having your camphor, your earwax, the washcloths, everything in your janaza kit to make sure that everything, the type of oil you want to smell with, all of that good stuff. So I see we have some comments. I'm about to put those up. We're going to keep it rolling though.
Okay.
One thing also I wanted to say is I know that I'm responsible for making sure that Ortez has a second line. Okay.
And you know what,
all the
Naima?
way down the street, he said, from the masjid all the way down the street.
I was gonna say, now tell people what the second line is. Those people that are not from New Orleans or New
Oh
Orleans.
yeah, so second line is basically dancing with umbrellas, and it's a specific type of dance. And so they second line for all types of celebrations, but definitely one of the celebrations is homegoing. So they do second line during homegoing ceremony. So I have been instructed. I need my second line.
And another thing too, for all those who are listening who may not be Muslim, when she talks about the janaza kit, janaza is a particular funeral ceremony that Muslims have, and there's particular rituals or protocols in terms of what you wear and how it's all done. So when she talks about a kit, that's like the kit for everything that that you're covered with or that's used on your body during that whole ceremony. So that's what she's referring to when she talks about the janaza kit, everyone having that. So that's great. And another thing, I think I heard you mention it too, Naima, is having your contacts, because everyone doesn't know, your family members may not know everybody that and that you're connected with, who you would want to know that you passed.
Especially if you're like independent contractor. Like at work, you have your work people. But if you're an independent contractor and people are trying to contact you, and if you work with other people, at least they can try to reach out to those clients for you to let them know that you have, passed away. Because otherwise, your business is just kind of like sitting there like, oh, what happened? We don't know. And it's just better to let people know ahead of time. And that way also people can do those posts specifically on your business platforms.
Right. That's very important too for those who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs. You have your own thing. I know as an attorney, they started this a few years ago, because every year we have to update our information, our contact information, all this kind of stuff, and do continuing education class. One of the things they started a few years ago is that you have to appoint someone to close up your affairs, your legal affairs, after you're gone. So you have to appoint another attorney. So every year you have to make sure that person is updated, so that in the event that you do pass, there's someone who's an attorney who should, or wind up your legal affairs in terms of your private practice and stuff like that, in terms of with your clients and stuff like that. So definitely, if you're an entrepreneur, that's like another layer that you have to think about in terms of notifying your clientele about your passing and how to wrap up their affairs. So that's another element that you're going to need to make sure that you write down. And I would say too that you just make it real simple at first. You can just write it down and make it real simple. And then you can keep adding on to it as you progress through your business, or just as time goes along, because when you think of come across different scenarios versus feeling like you got to have everything all done and perfect, and then you never get to it because you feel just so overwhelmed. Just write down the basic parameters and then kind of just add to it as you go along.
Now,
Another,
I just add a little bit on the business part of it. If you have a business that, when you think about generational wealth, depending on what kind of business you have, if it's something that you're kind of leaving as a legacy, you want to also think about making connections with those people that you want to be able to carry on, because maybe it's sustaining itself, and you want to make if that's your wish, that you want your business to keep going and you want this person to be able to take over. So not only letting the clientele know that this person has passed on, but we will be continuing the business and we can still service you. So that's important too.
Right. Yeah. Another thing is if you have pets, right? So if you have pets, what happens to your pets when you pass? Y'all heard these stories of, rich people when they pass, and that you hear about a dog or whatever that it supposedly inherited all this money. They set up a trust to continue the care of, this famous dog, like $2 million or $3 million to care for this dog or these cats or whatever. Yeah, we're not trying to do all that, but still you have to think about what to do with your pets. So they have these, what they call pet guardian trusts. And again, you don't have to be real wealthy to have one of these, but basically it's just something that's set up where you set out your wishes on what you want to happen with your pets. Okay. And if it is a situation where you want to leave some money, because maybe the person who would really benefit from your pet, maybe they're not financially able to really take care of it. I don't know, but maybe they're not, but that this would be a good thing for them. Like if you got a horse, for example, let's say you got a horse, I don't know, but let's just say you got a favorite horse, right? Horses are expensive to keep up. Right. So if you got a horse and someone, oh, this person would really, because they really love my horse, they always come in to ride or whatever, but they don't necessarily have the financial resources to keep it up, but you would know that horse will be taken care of, then you can leave it to them. And then you might leave some money to say, okay, this is supposed to be in a trust for, my horse champion, my horse champion. And I want it to go, to Bilal or whatever, so. But irregardless if it's not that elaborate, you still need to set forth some things of what you think should happen with your pets, because people might not always know, and they may just decide, okay, you know what, I'm going to take it to the vet and let them figure it out, versus somebody, maybe a kid down the street who would love to have your dog because they always come over and play with your dog, but your daughter never really knew that because she lived in another state or whatever. So just make sure you, whatever pets that you have something written down on what you think should be done or what your wishes are regarding your pets. And do you all have anything else before I tell them these resources that they can kind of go to help put all these documents in play?
I just want to add, as far as insurance, for life insurance, I know a lot of times we're not covered, even, especially as Muslims. And so I just want to reiterate the importance of being insured. It's a protection for your family, putting your, it's like you have an income that comes in to your household or for your family. And when you're not there anymore, that income is not there. And so this serves as a purpose for that, and if you have investment accounts or whatever, of course, that helps. So this kind of helps your family to continue moving on the way they were when you were here. And so that's really, really important. And so just one of the things I just wanted to reiterate, because I know a lot of times within our community, we find that not only are we scuffling trying to find money for the janaza, but it kind of, if we lose a father and, he had a wife and they had 6 children and she was a homemaker and now he's not there, the money's not there. And look at what happens with the family situation. So she's going to be struggling. And so I would just want to just mention that that's something that's really, really important. You can get in touch with us. That's something that I do is insurance. So I can help you with that. So get in touch with me. And Naima also, I just drew a blank.
Her
My
husband.
husband.
Yeah, her husband does life insurance.
Yes,
And
he does.
burial insurance, which is also equally important. So you can't afford to, shell out $5,000 at one time. Go ahead and get some burial insurance, which will cover the plot and everything that is necessary for when you get buried. And I think a lot of people often forget about burial insurance. Like they're not even thinking about that. And something else to think about when you talking about life insurance, Nefertari, is the amount of insurance,
Yes.
right? Everybody doesn't need $1 million policy because the older you get, that policy is a certain price and it changes as you get older. And so sometimes,
Unless you have a term policy, depends on what
right.
kind of policy you
That's why I said sometimes. So
have.
say for instance, if you have a lot of young children, it's great to have $1 million policy or more. But if it's just you and your spouse and all of your children are older now, it's just really just kind of thinking about like life insurance is not to set them up, it's to help them through. And
Right.
so that's something else to think about. No one's trying to become a millionaire or a trillionaire off of life insurance. And also because you just want to be careful because unfortunately there are people who will see that as an opportunity.
That's true.
We've seen it before. Like, oh, this person has $1 million policy. I'm hard on money, blah, blah, blah. They're gonna have an accident. I'm gonna get this money. So just thinking about, okay, this is only to set up like, hey, it's not for years and years and years. But for some people, if you only have one person that you're taking care of, that's fine. But if it's a lot of people, $1 million life insurance policy can go very, very quickly. And just thinking about like, okay, hey, this is gonna help my children for 4 years of college. This is going to help pay off the mortgage. It's going to help pay off. So that just adding up everything, that's going to help you understand and indicate how much life insurance you should really take on. And then just remembering again, because you're not trying to set your family up, even a $50 policy, $10,000 policy will help to get your family through that time. And as we say, some is better than none.
Yeah, some is definitely better than none. And another thing, just one more thing I want to mention on the policies is that, when you talk about beneficiaries, another thing you can do is, depending on what masjid you go to, if you want to leave a charitable contribution, you can put that in your policy that I want to leave 10% or 5%, 20%, whatever it is to such and such masjid, or whatever different masjids if you want more than one. So that's another thing for people to consider.
And schools.
Schools as well, yeah.
Got my stuff written out, honey. Everything allocated.
Oh, you got that? You got it already down, huh?
Yes, I do.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And not only that, but I thought about this too when you were talking, Naima. It's like everybody don't have to know all your business, right? I mean, you don't have to tell people how much. It's nobody's business how much insurance you have. Even the people that you might have appointed as your executor of your, estate or whatever after you leave, or even the people that you let know, if it's your family or friends or whoever that you let know where your important documents is. You don't have to divulge what it is that you have. You understand what I'm saying? Or how much you have.
Excellent.
They just need to know you got some important documents somewhere. And if anything happened to you, deal with it. You know what I mean? But they don't need to know if you do have $1 million policy. Why they need to know that? They don't need to know that. You got a $10,000 policy. They don't need to know that. You know what I mean? All they need to know is you got a little life insurance. I got a little something. So you don't have to worry about burying me. You ain't gonna have to do no GoFundMe to put me in the ground. Okay, that's all you need to know. Everything else is extra. So
Excellent point.
Yeah. So you don't have to tell everybody all your business or whatever, and stuff. You don't have to tell everybody all your stuff. So that's what I would say to that. But I do want to give you all a site, okay? And this is a free site. It's called doyourownwill.com. DoYourOwnWill.com. This is a free site. You go to this site and you put in, your basic information in there. You don't enter anything like social security number or anything like that, but just your basic information, your wishes or whatever. It's a template. And what it does is it populates all these documents that I just now talked about. It populates all these documents for you. So after you get finished in it, it asks you questions. And after you get finished answering the questions and entering the information, it populates all these documents for you, and you have all your documents. And all you got to do is just download the documents and then go get them signed and notarized. So if you're talking about your last will and testament, last will and testament is going to print that. You can print that out. You can print all of these documents we talk about, the health directive, the general power of attorney. If you want to have that, you select which ones. They let you know what the most important ones, and then you can select the alternative ones. Like if you don't have a pet, then of course you don't need a pet guardian trust one, for example. But all these other ones you print out, and they got a space for you to write your homegoing wishes, your final arrangements, your important contacts, all that stuff. And then all you got to do is print it out. If you want to have a hard copy, download it to your computer or to your little flash drive or wherever you want to keep your stuff. You need to have like several different copies. That's what I say. Electronic copy, a hard copy, all that kind of stuff. And then you have your stuff. And it's for free. And it's a way to get started even now. And then you can always, after you do that, if you want to save some money, you can always later on go see an estate attorney and have them, review it with your circumstances, and you still pay them, but you just won't pay them as much money because you've already done some documents, And of course, if you have a more complicated situation, more money, more assets, blended family issues, and all this kind of stuff, you may want to go ahead and see an estate attorney. Another resource that I want to tell you about is called aging.georgia.gov. Okay. So even if you don't live in Georgia, every state has a similar type of organization that's a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to senior citizens and helping them in this way. And most of them have a particular department that deals with estate planning. Also, you can contact the Legal Aid Society. So in Georgia, of course, we have the Georgia Legal Aid Society, or if you're in a big city like Atlanta, you might have the Atlanta Legal Aid Society. But most states have a legal aid society, and they all, for the most part, have an estate type of division, and a legal aid society gives you free aid. So depending on what your situation is and your circumstances, you may be able to get free legal services to help you set up your estate or trust, or just help you go over some general will information in these documents. And a lot of times they have those documents online for you as well. Let's see, another thing I wanted to tell you.
And Nefertari stuff is also online. If anyone wanted to contact her for life insurance, just look at the ticker. Her information is there. So I ask everybody to jot that down really, really quick. And then if you're looking for burial insurance or burial insurance, you can look up my husband, and I'll put his across the ticker as well.
Right. And also, too, another resource, of course, I told you about the free resource, Do Your Own Will. But if you actually want to speak with someone, maybe you don't want to have, go the full-fledged of doing your due diligence in terms of finding your own attorney, but they also have what I would call those other services like LegalZoom, right? Which you can do it online, and then you can actually maybe talk to somebody at a 1-800 number if you got a particular question about something. Those who have maybe Legal Shield, where you can get access to attorney. A lot of times when you sign up with those particular Legal Shield and those types of services, they will do a will or whatever for you for free, and you have an actual attorney or whatever that you can call and ask something. Then they have a Quicken. Those who are familiar, let's say, with QuickBooks, they also have a Quicken Will Maker, again, which is another software that maybe can go into detail if you just really want to get into doing it on your own. So those are some resources. But the whole point is just make sure you do your will, you do your health directive, you write something down generally about how you want your funeral arrangements or your homegoing service Jananza to be, what you want it to be about. You want to take care of your everything, which is your will, your body, which is your health directive, your money, which is your general power of attorney. Yeah, your money, general power of attorney, your money less, and then your homegoing, and then your pets. If you have pets, you want that to be taken care of. And also, I want to say, if you have a lot of people have sentimental items that they want to go to a particular person, write that down and let people know what sentimental items you have and who you want them to go to and where they can find those sentimental items. Because again, everyone has the patience once you pass to go through your things. And then when you talk about family, not of them have the emotional fortitude to go through your things. And you don't want family.
Put that in your Google Doc.
Yeah, put that in your Google Doc. And we have to get together, Naima, to do our homegoing preparation planning party.
Yes, I'm excited. We can do it in January. I had asked the question that earlier on Facebook and Instagram, and Facebook and YouTube tonight. So if you're interested, we definitely want to put up a survey or a sign up sheet on our Rock the Crown page, and then we'll have you all just signing up on Rock the Crown for the estate planning. We'll try to make it basically virtual and or maybe in person for those that can attend here in Atlanta, but definitely want to make sure that we get that going. I think the last question, we did have a question about estate planning as it relates to young adults. Mm-hmm. And for some young adults, we know that this can carry on a rider. If you have life insurance, you can carry on a rider up to, 2025. And then I believe they have an additional something where you can do something in addition to after they're 25. But you can get rider, which is already basically included in the life insurance policy. If you get a life insurance policy, not health insurance, life insurance policy, you can do a rider for your children up to, I believe, 25. And so, but it's also important for young people, as they're matriculating and they have older parents and things like that. You definitely want to make sure that sometimes some people over 50, 60, 70, they don't have life insurance. So young adults thinking about taking life insurance out on your parents is also important. You have anything else to add to that, Nafisa?
I just want to say too, for young people, for parents who have young adults, you can get life insurance on your young adult children, if they 18, 19 or whatever, because anything can happen again. Anything can happen. It could be in a car accident. It could be anything to happen. So if you have $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, enough to carry their burial or any incidentals or whatever on them, if they haven't started working, or maybe they have a business or they're a college student or whatever, I would say just go ahead and get that on them from a parent perspective. And if you are a young person, you can go ahead and sign up for yourself. It's like you can get probably like $10, $15. You can get, it's not even, maybe even $5. I think my son's might be $5 or something like that a month. It's like, it's cheap, but it's worth it. And it's less than the price of a Starbucks, which is one of my favorites. So I would say definitely young people, even though a lot of, you're young, you think you're invincible or whatever, but any type of accidents can happen when you were young, and you can just get the basics. And then as you grow and then, you get married or you acquire more assets or you have children, then you can get more, you can dive deeper into the different types of life insurance, but just starting out just at least have the basics to cover any type of funeral expenses or anything like that.
So we have a very, very important comment that we want to probably end on on this note, but is this all across all states, Nafisa, or is that
Well,
clear?
the thing that she has here, the question or the statement was that the power of attorney is no longer effective after death, right? Because the general power of attorney only covers, if you have a disability or you're sick or you're incapacitated.
Right.
So once you do pass away, right, that's no longer effective. And so then you would have to have a will or, basically you got to have a will. And if you don't have one, then whatever state you're in, they have a will that they're gonna impose on you.
Right. They're gonna take your
I
stuff.
mean, that's
Literally.
basically what it has. And then what I think what she also said in there is that you're going to probate as well. If you don't have a will or you didn't cover particular items in your will, that's what it means by going to probate. So now you got to go to court and they have to go through the process of imposing the state's will and their rules upon you.
So Nafisa, it looks like she was saying like even if you have a will, like you still would have to go to probate. So how does that work?
Well, it depends. It's different types of assets. We're not going to get into it, but it's different types of assets. Some assets upon your death, they pass directly to whoever your beneficiary is, right? Some assets, if you have a will, depending on what it was and how you did the will and whether what it is that you covered, you still have to go to the will to be presented. The court still has to know, oh, here is the will. This person had a will. It was notarized. It's legitimate. It covered these particular assets. No problem. Some assets, depending on what's going on, they still might have to go through the court itself, depending on what it is. So, and different states kind of vary a little bit on exactly how it works in the process. But even if you have a will, you still have to kind of a lot of times present your will, and they have to go through, like everything. Some stuff passes directly to your whoever you wanted to go to. Some stuff still has to go through the court, but it will be distributed according to the will. And then some stuff, depending on what's going on, with the will, if it was scrutinized or if somebody's challenging it, sometimes you might have those descendants that want to challenge the will, or the particular thing at issue was not exactly covered in a will or was not clear, then it has to still go through there. So it just kind of depends on the assets. But for the most part, your will govern your wishes.
And so one last thing, and I know a lot of times people have this question. So, when you have things in your name versus when you have it in a trust, what would be the difference? Because I know a lot of times I hear, to have your things in a trust because you get that extra protection and you don't have to go through certain hoops. What's your advice on that?
Well, it depends. Everything depends when you're a lawyer. Okay. And I say that because there's different types of trust, right? And a lot of it has to do with how much control you have. If you set up a trust and you drop some assets in the trust, and then you appoint a trustee who's basically managing that whole thing, and let's say I dropped all these assets into a trust, and then I appointed Naima to be the trustee, and she's controlling everything dealing with the trust, right? Then that's given more legitimacy, if you want to say that. Okay. But if I drop stuff in the trust, but I'm still trying to control what's going on with the trust, I still got all this power over the assets. It's still considered legitimate, but it's not. I haven't really divorced myself from the control or power over these particular assets. So therefore, there's rules about your protection is not as great. Is that what I'm saying? So it depends on what type of trust you set up. They have what they call revocable trust, irrevocable trust. So revocable trust means, I set up a trust for my children, but if you piss me off, I'm going to take all my assets back. That type of thing. Irrevocable trust, no. So there's different types of trust. I don't want to give a blanket statement and make people think, oh, okay, if I got a trust, it means all these things, because that's not true. It depends on what type of trust you set up, and it depends on who has power and control once you drop the particular assets and stuff like that, how it's conducted, afterwards. Yeah. All right. So did we have any other questions or comments that come across? Sometimes I can't tell.
I think there was one more comment that this should include bank accounts, but I do believe we did talk about bank accounts earlier. So if in case you did miss it, we do not mind if you go back and rewind. So we did talk about bank accounts earlier in the earlier part of the show. When we first initially came on, talked about last will and testaments and exactly what happens with the bank accounts. And when we talked about the money segment, we did talk about bank accounts and things like that. So we are so excited. We have actually gone way over the time, but we are so excited because we saw that you all were engaged. So we really, really appreciate you all coming on. Crown Nation, we love you and appreciate you. Again, we ask that you share this with your friends and family, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram. And again, until next time, everyone, peace. Have a great evening.
Assalamu alaikum.
I love it.